this was decided.
You really think you can change the future?
All of this was decided.
The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear.
All of this was decided.
Good tidings, ladies and gentlemen of the Lodge, and welcome back. Today's video is going to take us into the world of Final Fantasy VII, more specifically, that of Crisis Core. Crisis Core, being the prequel that it is, wears a lot of its influence on its sleeve. I mean, there's a character named Genesis after all, which, for all intents and purposes, can be seen as the sort of prequel chapter in the Bible. More on that later. Genesis himself, in a lot of ways, is a walking embodiment of these inspirations, which at times can be a little off-putting, but I do find Genesis to be an intriguing character and think there really may be a lot more to him than meets the eye. So let's talk about Loveless, and more specifically, his obsession with it. Because if we are honest, this play is about 50% of this character's dialogue. But where is that coming from? Much of Genesis's journey is in the pursuit of knowledge, awareness, and enlightenment. Specifically speaking, a journey to discover what he would call the gift of the goddess, which can be synonymous with Genesis trying to put a stop to his degeneration. In what could perhaps be seen as a desperate attempt to cling to something, Genesis relies on the play Loveless to direct his path. Now, we could talk all day about all the potential reasons why Genesis sees the beauty of these words, but allow me to propose something that you may not have heard before, something that relates in a meta-narrative kind of way. Let's take it back to this era of Final Fantasy right here, the PlayStation 1 era spanning from Final Fantasy VII to Final Fantasy IX. Of course, as we know, Crisis Core springs from Final Fantasy VII, but there is something about this era of Square in particular that's worth mentioning. There always seems to be some kind of nod to stage performance and theater. We see it very on the nose in both Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy IX, with Loveless being Final Fantasy VII's stage play and I Want to Be Your Canary as the stage play in Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy VIII isn't as quite on the nose with this stuff, but we still see nods to theater and stage performance. Whether we look at the Waltz of the Moon, the stage set and performances at the Garden Festival, either way, we see how all three titles not only featured segments of the campaign dedicated to these stage plays and performances, but all three examples ended up having a significant place in the overall plot. So knowing this, and seeing that Final Fantasy VII Remake has put an extra emphasis on Loveless as well, especially when we consider the backstory of Jesse Raspberry, it draws us right back to Genesis in Crisis Core. Is his obsession with Loveless not only an acknowledgement of the era of Square that he springs from, not just a wink and a nod to Square's influences, but perhaps this character who spends the whole game pursuing enlightenment, perhaps part of that enlightenment is knowing that he is playing out some kind of play, some kind of performance. Genesis, in a lot of ways, organizes himself and his plans as if he is just a character playing out a role in Loveless. That's why as the game goes on, he's trying to fit everyone into different roles. Himself the hero, Angeal the friend who flew away, Sephiroth the friend who isolates himself. In a lot of ways, Genesis is auditioning for the role of hero.
3 friends go into battle. 1 is captured. 1 flies away. The one that is left becomes a hero.
A common story.
If we were to enact it, would I be the one to play the hero? Or would you?
It's all yours.
Indeed. You have succeeded Angeal's spirit, and carry a part of Sephiroth within you. Thus, the 3 friends are reunited once again. And Loveless is reenacted.
And though his constant quoting of Loveless can be annoying, and although his motives and methods most certainly are not pure, we cannot ignore the fact that Genesis ultimately was the one who actually met and witnessed the goddess Minerva with his own eyes. Him using Loveless as a North Star and guide led him exactly where he wanted to go. The result's not quite what he expected, but ultimately, in a lot of ways, Loveless led Genesis exactly where he wanted to go. So what is the message here ultimately? The best way I could put it is everything going on with Genesis, Loveless, Minerva, it's all a recognition that art, stories, plays, poetry, that ultimately they are reflections of ourselves, reflections of the human experience. I'm sure all of us, if you're the type of person watching this video right now, you have a story that's been told to you through a video game that resonates with you, something that you were able to learn and grow from. We all, in some way, shape, or form, use stories as a way to guide us. In fact, cultures have been doing that for thousands of years, whether it be through religious texts or bedtime stories for your kids. Ultimately, that's what stories are for, and that's ultimately what makes them powerful. Whether this character knows it or not doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, Genesis is acting it out. He is able to find truth in Loveless because, again, the play is a reflection of experiences of those who live in Midgar, or perhaps anywhere else on the planet of Gaia. I truly believe that what Genesis is here to do, in a lot of ways, is to demonstrate to the audience the power of storytelling. So with that said, what do you think, dearest viewer? Do you agree with my assessment of Genesis, Loveless, and this era of Square? Or do you perhaps have your own unique perspective to share? Let me know. But anyway, that's gonna just about do it for us here today. You all be good out there, be good to yourselves and each other, and I will see all of you beautiful sickos and normies next time.
All of this was decided.
You really think you can change the future?
All of this was decided.
The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear.
All of this was decided.
Why not just sit back and watch it play out?
All of this was decided.
May your heart be your guiding key.